Dance this, and I'll give you $100 million. The billionaire laughed, his deep voice echoing through the marble hall like a cruel challenge. Martin Caldwell, one of America's richest men, leaned back in his leather chair, a crystal glass of bourbon in hand. Around him, wealthy guests erupted with mocking laughter. They weren't laughing at him, but at the trembling young girl standing in the center of the room. Lily, the maid's daughter. She wore a plain dress, her shoes scuffed from years of being hand-me-downs. Her mother, Maria, stood frozen by the doorway, her hands shaking as she clutched a tray. She whispered, almost too softly, Don't do this." But Martin smirked, pointing toward the polished floor as though commanding a show. "Let's see what the maid's kid can do. If she surprises me, maybe I'll keep my word. If not..." He let the silence drag, his grin sharp as a knife. The air was thick with tension. No one expected Lily to move. No one thought she could. Yet in that moment, something in her eyes shifted. Fear gave way to fire. And when her foot touched the floor, silence fell. Just before we dive in, let us know in the comments where you're watching from today. We love seeing how far these stories reach. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss tomorrow's special video. Now let's jump back in. Enjoy the story Lily Evans had always been invisible. At least that's how it felt growing up in the shadows of River Oaks, a gated community just outside Houston, Texas. While the mansion stood tall with marble fountains and perfectly cut lawns, Lily lived in the small servant quarters at the far edge of the Caldwell estate, where her mother Maria worked as a maid for nearly 2 decades. At 17, Lily was quiet, observant, and far older in spirit than her years. She wasn't like the other kids in town who wore designer sneakers and drove brand new trucks to high school. Her world was thrift stores, secondhand books, and a single cracked phone that still somehow managed to connect her to dreams bigger than her circumstances. Her mother Maria was her anchor. A woman of resilience, Maria had raised Lily alone, pouring every ounce of strength into giving her daughter a chance at a life outside servitude. "Don't let them make you small," Maria would whisper when Lily came home with bruised pride from cruel classmates. Yet despite the encouragement, Lily had learned to carry her silence like armor. On the opposite side of this world stood Martin Caldwell. To most, he was the American dream carved into flesh, a self-made billionaire who built his empire in oil, real estate, and high-tech investments. His name was splashed across charity galas, college stadiums, and luxury resorts. But behind the polished public image lay a man consumed by control, power, and spectacle. Martin loved being the center of attention. More than that, he loved to remind others of their place. Servants were not people to him, they were part of the decor. He wore his arrogance like a tailored suit. When guests gathered in his mansion for lavish parties, he thrived on humiliating those he deemed beneath him just to hear the laughter of his peers. That night, the Caldwell mansion glowed like a palace. Chandeliers bathed the ballroom in golden light. The sound of jazz hummed in the background, while the scent of expensive cigars lingered in the air. Men in suits and women draped in diamonds circled the floor, glasses clinking as they whispered about stocks and politics. Maria moved quietly between them, balancing trays, ignoring the sting in her back from hours of work. She knew better than to attract attention. Attention in this world could mean shame. But tonight, attention found her anyway, through her daughter. Lily had wandered closer to the ballroom, caught by the music, perhaps by curiosity. She loved dance, though she never had lessons. She would watch YouTube clips late at night, mimicking moves when no one was looking, feeling alive in ways she couldn't explain. It wasn't just steps. It was expression, rebellion, freedom. When Martin noticed her, a cruel spark lit in his eyes. To him, Lily was an easy target, a way to draw laughter from his wealthy audience. That was when he leaned back, raised his glass, and issued the challenge that would shift everything. "Dance this, and I'll give you $100 million. The room erupted in disbelief. To the guests, it was a joke, a game, a child about to be ridiculed. Maria's heart stopped. She wanted to drag Lily out, shield her from the sneers, protect her from the humiliation that could crush her spirit. But Lily didn't move. Something deep within her stirred, a defiance she didn't even know she had.
You
For
really
Lily,
think you can just walk
this was
away
no
from all of
game.
this?
It was a chance.
I have to.
Not for money.
There's no
She
other
couldn't even
choice.
fathom that amount, but for dignity. For once in her life, she could stand tall in front of the very people who had always looked down on her. The stakes were higher than anyone realized. If she faltered, it would confirm every cruel whisper that she was just the maid's daughter. But if she succeeded, she might not just silence a room, she might change the course of her life forever. The silence after Martin's challenge was deafening. Guests exchanged smirks, their eyes glittering with the thrill of watching someone else's humiliation unfold. To them, it was entertainment. To Lily, it felt like standing at the edge of a cliff with no way back. Her mother's voice cut through the tension, sharp with fear. "Lily, don't!" Maria pleaded, stepping forward, tray rattling in her trembling hands. "This isn't for you. He's mocking you." But Lily's eyes never left Martin. Something inside her had shifted, a quiet storm brewing beneath the surface. She remembered the nights she'd pressed her earphones in tight, dancing alone in the small servants' quarters, believing no one would ever see her. Tonight, she wasn't invisible anymore. Still, the fear was real. Her palms were sweaty. Her heart raced. The weight of 100 eyes pressed down on her like chains. And yet, she took a step forward. Gasps rippled through the room. "She's actually going to try," someone whispered, stifling laughter. Martin leaned back, amused. Well, well. Looks like the girl's got guts. Let's see if she's got anything else." The band, unsure of what to do, faltered mid-song. Martin snapped his fingers. "Play something upbeat. Give the maid's kid a beat." The pianist hesitated, then struck the keys with a jazzy rhythm. The bass followed, the drums kicked in. The room filled with music, rich and alive. Lily closed her eyes. The sound wrapped around her, reminding her of the videos she'd studied. Dancers spinning, popping, pouring emotion into every movement. She inhaled deeply and let her body move. At first it was hesitant, an awkward sway, a stumble of rhythm. The crowd chuckled. Someone muttered, "She's out of her depth." But then something unexpected happened. Lily's nerves began to melt. She remembered why she danced, not for them, not for approval, but because it was the only time she felt free. Her body found the rhythm, her steps sharpened. She spun, kicked, dropped low, then rose with a sudden burst of energy that silenced the laughter. The guests leaned forward, stunned. This wasn't just a maid's daughter fumbling in embarrassment. This was raw talent, unpolished but undeniable. Martin's smile faltered, just slightly. He hadn't expected her to last more than a few seconds. But as Lily gained momentum, the obstacles grew. Her shoes, worn and thin, slipped on the polished marble floor. She caught herself just in time, disguising it as a deliberate move. The audience gasped, then clapped, thinking it was part of her style. Sweat trickled down her forehead. Her chest burned. She had never danced this long in front of anyone, let alone a ballroom of strangers ready to tear her apart. Still, she pressed on. From the corner, Maria's lips quivered as tears welled in her eyes. She whispered to herself, "Don't fall, baby. Please don't fall." Then a sudden twist. One of the guests, a woman in pearls, smirked and whispered loudly enough for others to hear, "She looks like she's fighting herself. This is pathetic." The laughter began again, low but cutting. It clawed at Lily's heart, threatening to break her concentration. She faltered mid-step, nearly stumbling. The room erupted with cruel chuckles. Martin chuckled too, regaining his smugness. "That's it? I was expecting more fire." The humiliation rose like smoke, suffocating her resolve. Her mother's warning echoed in her mind. Maybe she should stop. Maybe this was a mistake. But then, a sound broke through. From the back of the room, someone clapped, just once, strong and steady. A young waiter, no older than 20, stood frozen, realizing he'd revealed himself. His eyes locked with Lily's, silently telling her, "Don't give up." That single clap sparked something inside her. Her movements sharpened. She slid into a spin, landed perfectly, then let the music guide her into steps she didn't even know she could pull off. The crowd's laughter died. Their eyes widened. This wasn't comedy anymore. This was art. Martin's smirk faded completely. He leaned forward, glass lowering from his lips. His gaze narrowed, as if seeing Lily for the first time. But just as Lily reached her stride, a twist threatened everything. Her shoe caught on the edge of a rug. She stumbled hard, arms flailing. The crowd gasped, certain it was over. Her body froze mid-fall, the music still pounding. For a heartbeat, everything hung in the balance. Her dignity, her courage, her chance. And in that suspended moment, Lily had to decide: crash to the floor in defeat or rise with fire. For a heartbeat, the room was frozen. Lily half fallen, arms flailing, her shoe caught on the rug. To the crowd, it looked like the moment everything would collapse. But inside Lily, time stretched. Her chest heaved. Sweat trickled down her temple. She heard the laughter already forming in the guests' throats. She imagined the headlines. Maid's daughter humiliated at Billionaire's party. It would live in whispers, forever tethered to her name. But then another sound cut through. The memory of her mother's voice, soft and steady from years past. She was 8 again, standing barefoot in their small living quarters, ashamed because kids at school laughed at her patched-up clothes. Maria knelt down, holding her face between calloused hands. "Baby, listen to me. People will always try to make you feel less, but you are not less. You are mine, and you are enough." Those words became a lifeline. With a deep inhale, Lily straightened, turning the stumble into a fluid drop to the floor, rolling back to her feet with sudden power. Gasps filled the air. What had looked like a fall transformed into choreography. Maria's breath caught. Her hands covered her mouth as tears blurred her vision. She had wanted to pull Lily away, to shield her, but watching now, she saw something different. She didn't just see her daughter dancing. She saw her fighting, resisting every chain life had tried to wrap around her. Maria's own memories flooded in. She had come to the Caldwell estate at 22, desperate for work after Lily's father left, leaving nothing but unpaid bills. For years, Maria scrubbed marble floors and polished silver while listening to Martin boast about profits that could feed a town. She had endured his arrogance, his condescension, his little cruelties. Every insult she swallowed because she had to keep food on the table. And yet she had always dreamed her daughter would never need to bow her head. Now that dream trembled on the ballroom floor. The guests who once sneered were silent, their laughter dying in their throats as Lily's movements grew fierce. She leapt, spun, and locked eyes with the crowd, as if daring them to laugh again. For the first time in her life, she wasn't hiding. Martin's jaw tightened. At first, he had treated this as a joke, a spectacle for amusement. But watching Lily now, he felt something he hadn't in years. Discomfort. A nagging memory stirred in him too, one he had buried deep. He was 14 again, standing in a dingy Texas trailer. His father, a drunk, had laughed at him for dreaming big. You'll never make a dime. You're trash, boy." Those words had ignited Martin's hunger to prove the world wrong, but they had also carved a wound he never healed. Every time he humiliated someone weaker, it dulled the echo of that voice. Now, watching Lily rise from near defeat with fire in her eyes, he saw a reflection of his younger self, the one who refused to stay down. The realization unsettled him. Lily, unaware of the storm inside Martin, pressed harder. Her lungs burned, her muscles ached, but she poured everything into the dance. Each step was more than movement. It was declaration. I am not invisible. I am not less. Her vision blurred as exhaustion set in. Yet when she caught sight of her mother's tear-streaked face in the crowd, strength surged through her veins. This wasn't just for herself. It was for Maria, who had given everything so Lily could have a chance at something more. The music swelled, the band caught up in the momentum, playing louder, faster, feeding the energy in the room. Guests who had sneered now leaned forward, unable to deny what they were witnessing. Some even clapped along, caught in the rhythm despite themselves. And still Martin sat rigid, glass untouched, eyes narrowed. Something warred within him, mockery, admiration, fear. Because deep down, he knew, if she finished strong, if she proved him wrong, it would mean more than just a dance. It would unravel the power he had always held over people like her. and Martin Caldwell wasn't ready to lose control. The room was alive with music, but inside Lily felt only the thunder of her heartbeat. Every muscle screamed, every breath came ragged. She had given more of herself than she ever thought possible. And still, the challenge wasn't over. The polished floor glistened beneath the chandeliers. Her reflection stared back at her, flushed, trembling, determined. She knew she had one last chance to end this, not in defeat, but in triumph. She slowed her movements, drawing the crowd's attention into her rhythm. A spin, a pause, a step that echoed like a heartbeat. The laughter that once filled the air had vanished. Guests leaned forward, mesmerized. Forks clinked against plates. Glasses froze midair. And then she stopped. Dead still. The band faltered, confused by her sudden stillness. The silence that followed was heavier than any music could be. It wrapped around the ballroom like a spell. Lily lifted her chin, eyes scanning the room. She wasn't the maid's daughter anymore. She wasn't the invisible girl hiding in shadows. In that silence, she stood tall. Her breath steady, gaze fierce. Every face in the crowd was fixed on her. Some were awestruck, some were ashamed, and Martin Caldwell, once the loudest voice in the room, sat frozen, his glass untouched, his smirk gone. She let the silence stretch, refusing to rush. The tension grew unbearable. And then, with deliberate control, she delivered her final move. A sharp drop to the floor, rolling through her body, rising with explosive power into a flawless freeze. Her hand extended, palm open, as if daring the world to deny her. The chandelier light caught her, her figure glowing against the marble like fire in the dark. For a long, breathless moment, no one moved. Then, applause. It started with a single clap, the same young waiter who had given her courage earlier. Then another, and another. Until the entire room erupted in thunderous applause that shook the walls. Cheers echoed, guests rose to their feet, strangers shouting her name as if she were already a star. Maria wept openly, her tray abandoned, hands pressed to her heart. She had never seen her daughter so radiant, so unshakably alive. But Martin didn't clap. He sat still, eyes locked on Lily. Something burned in his chest. Anger, yes, but also something else. A recognition he didn't want to face. Lily's gaze met his across the roaring crowd. For the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of him. And for the first time in his life, Martin Caldwell had no words. The underdog had stood up. The room had chosen its victor. And the silence that followed his defeat was louder than all the applause in the world. The applause thundered through the ballroom, shaking the air. Guests rose to their feet, cheers crashing like waves. But at the center of it all, Lily stood still, chest heaving, sweat shimmering under the chandelier light. And across the room, Martin Caldwell did not clap. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, bourbon glass clenched so tight it trembled. His jaw locked, his eyes, cold and calculating, cut through the noise. The cheers only fed his fury. They're cheering her, not me. In my house. The band quieted. The clapping slowed. But the energy still buzzed in the air. Then, in a voice that sliced through the celebration, Martin spoke. "Impressive trick, kid," he said flatly. "But a deal's a deal, right?" The room hushed instantly. Every head turned toward him. Maria stepped forward, her voice breaking. "Mr. Caldwell, please, don't mock her anymore. Haven't you done enough?" Martin's eyes flicked to her, then back to Lily. "You think this little dance earns you a fortune? Do you know what $100 million even looks like?" His words dripped with venom. "It's more than you and your mother could spend in 1,000 lifetimes." Lily stood her ground, shoulders squared. Her voice, though quiet, carried across the ballroom. "You offered. I delivered." The words stung. Guests exchanged uneasy glances. A few even muttered agreement. Martin felt the ground shift beneath him. His authority, his stage slipping away. His laugh came sharp, brittle. "Delivered? That was a child's game. You think talent means anything without power? Without money?" He rose suddenly, glass slamming onto the table, liquid splashing across the white cloth. The crowd recoiled. Lily flinched but did not move back. You want my money? Martin snarled. Then prove you deserve it. Prove you're worth more than a spectacle. For a moment, the ballroom held its breath. Then Lily did something no one expected. She stepped closer, her voice steady, her gaze unblinking. I don't want your money. I wanted to show you that you can't laugh at us anymore. Not me. Not my mother. The words cut deeper than any dance could. A ripple spread through the crowd. A murmur of agreement, heads nodding, whispers rising. The tide was turning, and Martin felt it. His chest tightened. This was his domain, his empire of glass and marble. And now a maid's daughter was dismantling it with nothing but truth. He searched for words, but none came. For the first time in years, he had no control. The silence pressed on him, heavy and merciless. Maria stepped forward, her eyes locked on Martin. Her voice shook, but it was strong enough to pierce the air. All these years, I scrubbed your floors, polished your silver, watched you laugh at us like we were less than human. But tonight, you saw what I've always known. My daughter is worth more than your fortune. The crowd erupted again, this time not just clapping, but chanting Lily's name. Lily! 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 Martin's face flushed, his fists clenched. He opened his mouth to retort, but the sound drowned beneath the chant. He looked around, realizing, horribly, that no one was on his side anymore. The empire of fear he had built cracked in front of his eyes, and Lily, glowing in the center of it all, didn't need his prize. She had already won. Martin staggered back, his voice a broken rasp. Get out! Both of you! Out of my house! But the command rang hollow, powerless, because in that moment, everyone in the ballroom knew the truth. Martin Caldwell had lost, and Lily Evans, the maid's daughter, had claimed a victory money could never buy. The chant of her name still echoed in Lily's ears as the ballroom began to settle. For a moment, she simply stood there, trying to steady her breath, trying to believe what had just happened. Maria rushed forward, arms wrapping tightly around her daughter. I'm so proud of you, she whispered through tears. You stood tall. You made them see you. Lily clung to her mother, every ounce of exhaustion spilling out in that embrace. She didn't care about the crowd anymore. She didn't even care about Martin's fortune. All she cared about was this, her mother's pride, her own courage, the truth that she had not been silenced. The guests, shaken by what they had witnessed, began filing out in murmurs. But something had shifted in their eyes. They weren't looking at Lily with ridicule anymore. They looked at her with awe, respect, some even with guilt. Martin Caldwell remained seated, shoulders heavy, his empire of control shattered. For the first time in decades, he wasn't the most powerful man in the room. He was just a man who had been silenced by truth. One guest, an older woman with kind eyes, leaned toward Maria as she left. Your daughter is remarkable, she said softly. Don't ever let anyone tell her otherwise. Maria's tears doubled, but this time they were tears of hope. As the ballroom emptied, Lily and Maria stood in the center of the marble floor. The silence almost sacred now. The chandeliers glowed above them, no longer symbols of wealth and power, but of light shining down on those who dared to stand tall. Outside, the night air was cool, fresh, and alive with crickets. Lily inhaled deeply, the weight on her chest finally lifting. Maria touched her daughter's cheek. You don't need $100 million, baby. You already have something more valuable, your courage. Lily smiled faintly. I just wanted them to see me, Mom, to see us. They did, Maria said, and they'll never forget it. As they walked away from the Caldwell estate, hand in hand, neither looked back. They didn't need to. What mattered had already happened inside those walls. The maid's daughter had stood against a billionaire, and she had won. This story isn't about money. It isn't about riches or fame. It's about the quiet strength inside those the world tries to overlook. It's about courage, the kind that rises in the face of cruelty, the kind that transforms humiliation into triumph. Lily proved that true worth isn't measured in dollars, but in dignity. She showed that sometimes the most powerful person in the room is not the one with wealth or status, but the one who refuses to be broken. And Martin Caldwell, he was left with a lesson he could never buy. that mocking others may bring laughter for a moment, but respect, real respect, is earned through kindness, humility, and humanity. What would you have done in this situation? Comment below. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe for more.